Okay, this video is for periods 1, 4, and 6, and this is the multiplying and dividing in scientific notation. Before you start, you need to make sure you have your guided notes, and you will fill out your guided notes as we actually do the problems together, and this will be the lesson for this. I will tell you to stop occasionally to work problems out, so make sure you do that and just follow my directions. You should know that if you need to back up or pause as you're watching the video, you can do that, or you can watch this as many times as you need to. Okay, example number 1 for multiplying numbers in scientific notation, 3.4 times 10 to the third times 2.1 times 10 to the fifth. So you're going to write down for step 1, you're going to multiply the numbers out front. So when I take 3.4 times 2.1, I get 7.14. That's step 1. Step 2 is multiply the bases of 10, which is the 10 to the third and the 10 to the fifth. But instead of actually multiplying them, we add the exponents. So when we take 10 to the third times 10 to the fifth, we actually take the exponent and take 3 plus 5 is 8. So we get 10 to the 8th. Step 3 is to write the answer to the problem in scientific notation and decimal notation. So the scientific notation answer is 7.14 times 10 to the 8th. And that's correct scientific notation because the number out front is greater than 1, less than 10. And then the decimal notation, we have to take 7.14 and we have to move the decimal 8 places to the right. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And I'm going to add zeros wherever I have empty spaces. So my decimal notation answer is 714,000,000. If I add my commas in, that's 714 million. Okay, that concludes number 1. So go on to number 2, and we'll do that one together. Okay, example number 2. 2.93 times 10 to the negative second times 5.63 times 10 to the fifth. We're going to do the same process. So step 1, we're going to multiply the numbers out front. So we're going to take 2.93 and we're going to multiply it times 5.63. When I do that on the calculator, I get 16.4959. Make sure you check that on your calculator and make sure you get the same thing. Don't leave off any digits. Okay, step 2, we're going to take our bases of 10 to the negative second and multiply it times 10 to the fifth. Then in example 1, we talked about how you actually add the exponents. So negative 2 plus 5 is 10 to the third. Step number 3, we're ready to write our answers in scientific notation and decimal notation. So scientific notation, we're going to start with 16.4959 times 10 to the third. Now, you need to look at that and ask yourself, is that correct scientific notation? And your answer should be no, because this number out front is greater than 10. So we need to change this so it's greater than 1, less than 10. So that is 1.64959. Now, if you think about this 10 to the third, that would have meant moving the decimal 3 places to the right. But since we went 1 more to the left instead of 3 places to the right now, we need to make it to the 4 times 10 to the 4th. So I forgot my 10 here. So I need to make sure I put the 10. So the answer in scientific notation is 1.64959 times 10 to the 4th. That's the scientific answer. The decimal form, I can use either one of these two scientific forms and change it to decimal. So I'm going to take my final answer, 1.64959 times 10 to the 4th. And remember, the 4 tells you to move the decimal 4 places to the right. So 1, 2, 3, 4. So my final answer in decimal notation is 16495.9. That's my final answer in decimal notation. So I have two answers. Here's my first answer in scientific. Here's my second answer in decimal notation. Make sure you copy down all of that before you go on to the next page. And okay, problem number 3, 5.15 times 10 to the negative 4th times 3.12 times 10 to the negative 3rd. Pause the video, and I want you to work it out on your paper, and then when you're ready, start the video again, and I will go over it, and we'll see if our answers match. Okay, in step 1, you should have taken 5.15 times 3.12 on your calculator, and you should have gotten 16.068. Step 2, you should have taken 10 to the negative 4th times 10 to the negative 3rd, which means you take negative 4 plus negative 3, so you should have gotten 10 to the negative 7th. Step 3, now we're ready to write our answer in both scientific and decimal form. So scientific, I'm going to take the 16.068, and I'm going to take the times 10 to the negative 7th. And hopefully you recognize that that's not correct scientific notation. So again, I need to make this number out front greater than 1 and less than 10. So I have to move my decimal one place to the left. So this is 1.6068 times 10. So I either got to make this a negative 8 or a negative 6. So if you think about if you're going to go to standard notation in this beginning problem here, you would have moved your decimal 7 places to the left. So 1, 2, 3, and so forth. So instead of going 7 places to the left now, I'm actually going 1 closer. So this is going to be a negative 6. So my final scientific notation answer is 1.6068 times 10 to the negative 6. Now, the next thing I need to do is I can use either one of these and change them to decimal notation. So if I take my original answer, 16.068 times 10 to the negative 7th, I move the decimal left 7 places like it says to. If I go 7 places left, I'd go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So that tells me I need to have, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 zeros. So 0.0000016.068, and I can't leave out any significant digits. So my final answer to the problem is, here's my scientific answer, and here is my decimal answer. Now make sure you got those same answers, otherwise you need to correct your notes. Okay, we're now ready for part 2, which is dividing numbers in scientific notation. So again, you're going to follow along and you're going to copy down the notes so that you have examples, and then there will be at least one problem that you're going to do by yourself. So here we go. Okay, step 1 is very similar to what we do in multiplication, but now we're going to be dividing. So we're going to take these first two numbers out front, and we're going to take 6.4 divided by 3.2. So if you do that on your calculator, you get 2. Step 2, we're going to take our powers of 10 and divide them. But instead of dividing, we're going to subtract the exponents, opposite of what we did in multiplication. So subtract exponents. So if I take 10 to the 9th divided by 10 to the 4th, I actually do 10 to the 9 minus 4, which is 10 to the 5th. Step 3, we're going to put our answers in scientific notation again, and decimal notation. So scientific, I'm going to take my 2 times, and then my 10 to the 5th, and there's my scientific notation. And that answer is fine because the number out front is greater than 1 and less than 10. Decimal notation, I will take my 2 times 10 to the 5th, and the 5 tells me that I'm going to move the decimal in 2, 5 places to the right. So the decimal in 2 is right after the 2. So if I go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to the right, and I add zeros, my answer is 200,000. So my scientific answer is 2 times 10 to the 5th, and my decimal notation is 200,000. Alright, here's example 2, 8.034 times 10 to the negative 3rd divided by 3.14 times 10 to the negative 5th. So step 1, we take our numbers out front and we divide them. So we use our calculator and we take 8.034 divided by 3.14. And when I do that on my calculator, do yours now too, and then we'll see if we get the same answer. I got 2.56. Step 2, we take our exponents, 10 to the negative 3rd divided by 10 to the negative 5th, and we actually subtract the exponents. So you take the top exponent, you put subtract, and then you put negative 5. And then you got to remember your integer rules. Add the opposite. Negative 3 plus positive 5 is 2, so we get 10 to the 2nd. And then step 3 is we write our answers in scientific notation and decimal notation. So I take my top answer, 2.56, times, and then 10 to the 2nd. And again, that answer is perfectly fine. The number out front is greater than 2, less than 10, so that's perfect scientific notation. Now I'm ready to take 2.56 times 10 to the 2nd and put it in decimal notation. So the 2 says move the decimal 2 places to the right, so 1, 2, and my decimal answer is just the answer 256. So my scientific answer is 2.56 times 10 to the 2nd. My decimal answer is 256. Okay, number 3 is going to be a you-do problem. So go ahead and pause the video, do the whole problem, and when you're ready, come back and watch me, and we'll see if we get the same answer. Okay, step 1. Did you take 23.0462 and divide it by 8.29 on your calculator? When I do that, I get 2.78. That's step 1. And again, if you make a mistake in your notes, you need to fix them. You just pause and fix them. Number 2, I take my bases of 10, 10 to the negative 7th, divided by 10 to the 2nd, and I actually take 10 to the negative 7th, the top number, and I subtract the bottom number. So that's 10 to the negative 9th. And then, of course, number 3, I'm going to write the answer in scientific notation and decimal notation. So I take the 2.78 times 10 to the negative 9th. And again, I ask myself, is that in correct scientific notation? The number out front is greater than 1 and less than 10. So the answer is yes, it's fine. So now when I take 2.78 times 10 to the negative 9th, and I go to decimal notation, the negative 9 says I'm going to move the decimal 9 places to the left. So when I take 2.78 and I move the decimal 9 places to the left, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I have to add 8 zeros, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 2, 7, 8. So my final answer in decimal notation is this number here, and in scientific notation, 2.78 times 10 to the negative 9. Okay, please go show your notes to either Mrs. Jennings or Mrs. Evans or Mrs. Klingshirn, depending on who's in the room, or Mr. Baker if you're in period 6. He's our sub today, and they will give you what you need to do next. Have a good day, and good luck on rest of scientific notation.